Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. Title of today's video is Aussie writer deported from the US over his views on Gaza. What do you know? Another person deported for their views, for their speech, for their social media posts. Deported from the land of the free, right? The leader continually spouts about how great it is, how free it is. Freedom, American exceptionalism. But he behaves more like a tin pot dictator, authoritarian, and just quelling of freedom of speech, anybody who opposes, just any opposition really. And yeah, it's classic authoritarian playbook. Dare I say it, a fascist playbook too. You kind of, everything that's going on in Los Angeles with ICE, just raids, grabbing brown people, deporting people, and snatching people, detaining people. And that's all to further the, coldness. They want a freeze. They want people to be scared. Let's get to the story.
The writer has been deported from the United States after border agents grilled him over his views on the Gaza conflict and articles he wrote about university protests. Alastair Kitchen, a former student at New York's Columbia University, was refused entry and then detained for 12 hours at Los Angeles airport before being put on a flight back to Australia. And Alastair joins us now. Alastair.
So they're just taking people's phones now and looking through all of their social media history? Like, I'm confused. Because that's crazy.
Take us through what happened when when the border agents stopped you.
Well, the first thing that happened was that I went to get in that long line at LAX, which I think many of us know. Loudspeaker came on, called me over. I was pulled into the back room. And the first thing that happened is that my phone was demanded and the passcode for the phone was demanded of me. And then he sat me down and he said to me, "Look, we both know why you're here." And I said, I didn't know why we were here.
Look, we both know why we're here. That's like a line out of a movie.
And he said, it's because of the posts you wrote about the student protests at Columbia University.
What exactly did you write? I mean, did you write anything that might have upset them?
Well, I think that what I wrote was extremely moderate, undoubtedly sympathetic to the students and to their demands. But I did something which I think actually angered these people and the Trump administration, which is I wrote honestly about what I saw. And what I saw was no instances of anti-Semitism, which the Trump administration was very keen to claim was rife.
Right, so you write these blog entries, they don't like them. Is it as simple as that? They identify this and then they send you packing?
It's not as simple as that. I was there for 12 hours. The first 30 minutes, the first 45 minutes was spent grilling me about my views on Israel, on Gaza. I spent a lot of time trying to inform them about how...
Yeah, the Israel-Palestine conflict, it's heartbreaking and like there's not much that we can do. You can say your piece and you should be able to say your piece. That's the thing. I think the Trump administration had decreed that I think they were going to make it either easier to arrest people for their protests and removing them from, university and college properties, as well as expelling students, I think. And listen, some of these protests, they do get out of hand. There's peaceful protests. And there's protests that get violent, and there's protests that get disruptive. Like if a protest is, say, storming a classroom or storming a university to prevent a speaker from speaking, I'm not a fan of that. Short of the speaker, calling for violence upon others or something like that. But I'm curious, I'd be interested to read this writer's articles and kind of see what his viewpoint is on it. But all of that aside, regardless of what his viewpoints are. He's a person writing articles, documenting things, journalist, social media posts, whatever his views are, that they're being looked at that closely. That's like dictatorship type of totalitarianism that you would imagine, right, from the playbook. Reading through social media posts, arresting or deporting people, refusing entry, and looking into it that closely, being held in detention for 12 hours.
How I felt about a 1 versus 2 state solution. Not the type of questions that you're used to a border agent asking you. After that round of questionnaire, I then got put through the rigmarole of having my phone downloaded and searched, which I can tell you was a painful experience.
Painful in what way?
I don't know what you've got on your phone, but plenty of stuff on my phone is private. And I was sitting there in front of this border agent in a windowless room, not knowing if or when I would ever be released, looking at him, looking at some of the most vulnerable things I have. And for the second reason, because after a while he disappeared into the back office, running the software through my phone, searching it forensically. I didn't know what was going on, but he came out triumphantly. And of course, what he said to me was, "Mr. Kitchen, we've found evidence on your phone of drug use. And in your ESTA, you represented that you had not taken illegal drugs before, and sounds like you've been lying to us. I can tell you now that there's no evidence on there of drug use, but I've taken drugs before." So I didn't want to get caught out lying to him again. I told him that yes, I'd taken drugs before. And that, of course, on top of the full discretion that he already has politically, he was able to use as justification for deportation.
Okay. So you're on a plane coming in from LA with hundreds, I mean, these are big planes, right? Hundreds of people are getting off them. Why do they look down a list and go, "Oh, Alistair Kitchen's coming, we're ready"?
Yeah. I think it is because I was on the ground at the protest.
Undesirables, I guess, right?
And the protests are a hot button issue in the US and for the Trump administration even today. A former student, Mahmoud Khalil, still being detained by that administration. I think it was because I was a witness to it and because I was able to testify with my own eyes to what I'd seen.
Oh, so it's quite a story. You're not the only one to have had, I mean, yours has particular things, but a few more of these are starting to emerge. So we'll certainly keep an eye on it. Thank you very much for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Wow. Craziness. And what's going on in Iran and between Iran and Israel right now. I don't know if it's quelled or still escalating. It's certainly volatile, the situation right now. The Middle East, I don't know, man. It's thousands of years. Things haven't really changed much, right? It's still, sadly, countries fighting amongst each other and a lot of just horrible things going on. Comments here saying it's a genocide, not a conflict. Speaking to Israel and Gaza and the kind of occupation of Gaza, right? It's it's a terrible situation. I wish cooler heads could prevail, but this is decades and decades and decades of resentment and seeming hatred on both sides. The sad part is I'm sure there's so many ties between the two states. But onto a new topic, just the alienation of tourists, the alienation of the world right now, pretty much directly from the Trump administration, has been crazy. This person says, don't ever give them your phone or your passcode. You aren't under arrest. The worst they can do is send you back. I'd rather get sent back than have them looking at my phone. So much for the quote-unquote free country. And just people saying it's too risky to travel there right now. Crazy, man. keeps happening. All right, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Of course, we had the reporter shot with a rubber bullet recently and everything going on in Los Angeles. Whew. Powder keg, man. Seems like it's going to hit a boiling point at some point. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Peace.